Okay, Lizzy, welcome to Women's Circle. So lovely to have you.
So good to be here.
I think it's really important that you tell your story as a member of the Mama Got Skills team, because I don't think that people quite realize how important and aligned your journey is to the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, for a bit of background, we met, uh, when was it? Was it 2.5 years ago? No, not that.
Yeah.
Wow, 2.5 years ago. Yeah, I was looking for facilitators. And I remember our interview, and I think you won't mind me saying you were so shy and like, so humble. But I don't know, I guess I saw potential. I saw like a real keenness to learn and to spread the word and to share in the space of women. So yeah, we started working together, and you trained up, and we've learned a lot along the way.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool because you've taught me a lot about running a team, and something that I'm really open to say that I don't think I'm naturally that good at. Like I'm pretty good at being solo. I'm pretty good at like running my own ship, but I've really had to do some work around how to support a team. So yeah, it's been an interesting and exciting journey, and I'm really grateful to have had you along the way. And now it is time for you to share your story, because yeah, it's really interesting, and you've been through a lot. So before we get started on the journey, well, it's all part of it, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you grew up, because that's interesting in itself.
Okay, sure. Um, yeah, so I grew up in a family of there were six of us all together, including my parents. And I have an older sister who has cerebral palsy, so she's in a wheelchair and is non-verbal. And I have a younger brother with intellectual impairments. Plus, my mum's legally blind, and my dad has ADD, I should say. So, and me and my sister, well, I have ADD as well. And but like me and my sister are kind of the normal ones in the family.
What is
So,
not really?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my family growing up, and so I guess for me that was normal. And I would not change my family at all in the way I was brought up, but it was definitely interesting and different, and I think it's definitely shaped the person who I am now. And yeah.
And I think, really interestingly is that you were homeschooled.
Yes, I was homeschooled.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my mum looked after the four of us kids and homeschooled us. And so we would just every morning would sit around the dining room table and get our books out and do our work, and mum would take turns of like doing stuff with us, or sometimes we'd work as groups doing stuff and then break off, and then obviously as we we're each in different levels do our own level work related to that topic. But yeah, I think it made me and my sisters and brothers very close. We're a very close family. Though sometimes, you get lots of fights and you get very sick of each other.
Was there a reason behind homeschooling? Like, was it always the plan, or did that kind of emerge from something?
So I think it came from my older sister. So she was in a special needs school, and then that kind of shut down. And mum looked at schools to put her into, and it was just really hard to find a school that would accept her and that would also teach her. Like, mum didn't just want her to learn living skills. She wanted her to be able to read. She wanted her to be able to do basic maths, which they wouldn't have taught her. So she was like, right, I'm just going to teach her myself. And she's like, well, and I had learning problems. And so she's like, well, if I send Lizzy to school, she's just going to be put in a grade behind and won't get the support she needs. So she just decided to homeschool all of us. And
Oh, what a pioneering woman.
yeah, she's amazing. I don't know how she did it.
Tell us about her, because I think our mothers really shape us. And, this is the work we do, working with mothers. So can you tell us a little bit about your mum and your relationship with her?
Yeah, so I'd say me and my mum are pretty close. She's definitely an amazingly strong woman, and like she's very like if she wants to get something done, she will get it done. She's very strict though, like she had a lot of rules growing up, and um yeah, that's definitely, it's been interesting now being a mum myself, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting on her style of parenting and what I want to do. And there's definitely a lot of things I want to do differently, but like I still think she was such an amazing mum for being, legally blind, homeschooling 4 kids with special needs in the mix. And I think she's like, it's so amazing to see, what she did with us kids. And yeah, I don't know how she did it all, but
Was she a teacher?
no, she wasn't. So she was at uni uh when she fell pregnant with my older sister, and she was studying social science, which she ended up dropping out of. So no, didn't have any teacher background at all.
What a go-getter. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you have some differing parenting styles. What, like, can you elaborate on those?
Yeah, so I guess so I grew up in a very Christian family. And so I guess, and my parents didn't have Christian parents. So I guess they were very much like, well, we have to raise our children Christian. And so they were very much like rules based, and like, I was listening to a podcast the other day and I was talking about the different forms of parenting. And I think it's called legalistic parenting or something like that. Like, where it's like, these are the rules and you have to follow them kind of thing. Um, and I think also the fact that she couldn't see very well, and having children of different needs, she kind of needed to be really strict on us and have really strict rules, because she couldn't see what was always going on, and so she just needed us to always know that this was right, this was wrong, that we're always in line. And she unfortunately had been abused as a child, and so she was very strict about boys and dating and sleepovers and all those kind of things. And so, yeah, which I tended to try and rebel a bit with. I love dating boys and all that kind of stuff. So.
All the things you're not meant to do according to your parents. So I'm just like, I know I'm just really interested. So they were not Christian, but decided to be Christian once they met.
So I think my mum became a Christian when she was about 12. Like her mum sent her to school,
Oh,
Sunday school, even though my grandparents aren't Christian. And so that's when my mum decided to become a Christian. But like my grandparents weren't Christian. And then my dad, he kind of fell into Christianity at uni. It's quite a funny story, actually. He had a girlfriend that was a Christian, and he was like, yeah, okay, I'll go to the Christian study group, for her. So he went there, and then he's like, oh, this isn't for me. So he tried to leave. And then the next day, some people was like, oh, you were at the Christian group, you should come with us tonight. And he's like, no. And then he like kind of like, yeah, I'll come. And then he's like, no, I won't. And he was walking in the opposite direction of the meeting later that day when it was like about time to start. And 2 other guys came along and like, hey, you should come with us. And he's like, okay. And so then, yeah, he went, and yeah, he became a Christian that night. So yeah.
like he was like twice trying to walk away, and twice people were like, no, you need to be on this path. I mean, universe. So like let's go, because Christianity has been a big part of your life.
Mm.
To the point where you met your then husband, is that correct?
Yes. I
Yeah.
met him.
Maybe we'll go into that journey.
Yeah, so my journey of church or my journey with Hayden?
Oh, well, up to you. Like how you came to be a mother, really?
Yeah. So I met Hayden. I'd walked away from church and I'd just come back to church, and after having some pretty horrible things happen to me. So I'd just come back to church, and then I met Hayden, and he was very persuasive and asking me out, kept asking me out. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready to date yet, but okay, I'll do this. He convinced me. So we started dating. We were only together for about 8 months when I fell pregnant.
And how old were you? You were quite young, weren't you?
I was 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'd just finished school, and I was 2 years out of school. Um, and yeah, we fell pregnant, and that was really scary for me. Like, I was a dancer, so I was like peak dancing. I was like starting to do auditions, and I was hoping to become um a dancer on cruise ships and stuff. So it was like shook my whole world upside down. I was like, can't dance anymore, um and so obviously coming from a very Christian background and stuff, everyone's like, well, you should get married. So um we decided to get married. But I think one was pregnancy hormones, and two, I think the stress of getting married. I wasn't ready to get married, and I didn't particularly want to get married, but so I had really severe depression during my pregnancy. Which, yeah, that was challenging. Yeah, it wasn't the most fun time of my life. Um,
Was so during that depression, I'm guessing it was really hard to connect with the baby.
yeah, it was. And I think also the fact that um like I I did want her, but I didn't want her at the same time. And I think that made it really challenging, like just the battle inside my head and my heart, like of like, I want this baby, like I want to keep this baby, but at the same time, like it's gonna change my whole world, and it just means like a lot of sacrifice, and it was just really challenging. And then obviously the depression on top of that, like
Yeah. So
yeah.
how did you work through that depression?
To be honest, I didn't do a very good job of working through that one. I just continued doing what I was doing, and I just tried to just not think about it, and I just cried heaps, I think.
Yeah. Well,
um
association is a really normal thing when things are too overwhelming or they remind us or trigger us from something in the past. It's really easy for us to just like shut it down and be like, I just can't deal with that. So it's really normal that that was your response at that time. And you
yeah.
were 19. My goodness, like 30-year-olds have their first child and still it rocks their world, you know?
Yeah.
So the pregnancy is rough because you're working through so many things within yourself, right? You know, you're still a teenager, you're with someone that, you know, perhaps it wasn't your plan. You know, there was a lot of things that were going on. And then all of a sudden you're having to take care of a tiny human. What happened when she was born?
So when she was born, I remember I had to stay in hospital for a minimum of 3 days because of my depression. And I remember I remember holding her and being like, I'm supposed to love this thing and care for this thing, and I don't know how to love her. Like, I felt so disconnected from her. It was really hard, and I felt really isolated and alone because everyone was so excited and happy. She was the first uh, grandchild and first, of all the families and stuff. So everyone was so excited, and I'm like, oh yay, baby! And inside I was just like, oh my gosh. I remember thinking, I just want to leave her here and run. like, um, it was
But
really scary and overwhelming.
100%. But on the outside, you're like, everything, yay, this is, wow, Lizzy, that's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah, and I think, being a dancer and having gone through so much as a dancer, like when you have a performance day and you've had something really traumatic happen that day or something, and you still have to put on the smiling face. So I guess I was really good and like talking to people. No one knew that I was depressed during this time. No one knew that anything was going on, that I was struggling so much, because I was so good at putting on that happy face and acting like everything's normal and fine.
That's huge. That's huge. We just need to like take this moment right now, because to acknowledge that that's where you've been, and that face, like putting on that brave face, I don't know how many women would resonate with that, that everything's fine, we got this, we're good, and inside you're literally dying.
Yeah.
So you have this baby, and obviously you feel disconnected, and I just find it interesting that the hospital said you have to be in hospital a minimum of 3 days because of depression. Like 3 days is going to solve some really deep things. That's a whole other story about postnatal care and why I'm such a passionate advocate, or why we do this stuff, because it's kind of like, oh, your baby's fine, good, see you. So
Yeah.
okay, so you leave hospital, you've got this baby. Does it ever start to feel normal?
Yeah, I think it was like a journey. As I slowly, I think breastfeeding definitely helped upon that journey, releases all those hormones and stuff. And over it took a while, but, we slowly got there. I think the thing that amazed me the most, though, is like, despite feeling so disconnected from her, it was like almost like an instinctual protection I had over her, though. Like, it was so crazy. Like, if anything happened, I just felt like this mama bear come out. And being the timid type, like, I was such a timid person and I never stood up for myself. And it was amazing trying to like seeing myself starting to stand up a bit for her. And but yeah, so that was really interesting. And then, yeah, just that it probably took about 6 months for me to for everything to kind of settle down and feel like, okay, I've got this. And I felt connected with her, and helped as that personality comes out a bit as well. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That's good. And had you sought any help yet, though, or was it still very silent?
So I started going to a young mums group. So because I was such a young mum, I had my baby through the Martyrs Young Mother program, and then from there on, they have a young mums group. And I started going to that straight away because I knew that I needed to get out of the house. I couldn't stay in the house by myself with the baby. So I started going that. I think the first time I went to that, she was 7 days old. So she was a week old. Which I look back, I'm like, oh, that was crazy. But I think, again, it was just the depression, and I just needed to get out of the house. I couldn't stay there with my baby and myself and my thoughts.
Yeah.
So being with that young mums group helped so much. Meeting other mums in similar positions as me, like similar age and unexpected pregnancies and similar situations that I was in, really helped, I think. And I started making some friends because I didn't have many mum friends. Obviously, most of my friends were still out partying and shopping and all that kind of stuff. They didn't want to sit down with a mum and chat about all her mum issues. And
Ooh.
so yeah, I think that helped a lot.
Did you feel like you started to open up about your journey?
Yeah, they had some really good older women there that ran the group. And because I had all three children through the same program, and so I went with all three children. My eldest, Lucy, still remembers this particular lady, Pam. And she helped me so much and really helped me open up, and gave me so much advice and love during all that time, and during through all 3 pregnancies and babies. And
was the guide that you asked for universally, you know.
yeah.
So you had Lucy. You kind of, by 6 months, you kind of got into somewhat of a routine with her, and you're still heavily involved in the church at this time. Is that right? Yeah. And so what happened for baby number 2, I guess?
Yeah, so baby number 2 was also a big surprise. We had just left the church we were in. There was some complications that happened, and it was a really nasty fallout. And yeah, me and my husband at the time, we were in a really rocky place, and then we suddenly found we're pregnant with another baby, and it was like really shocking. But I did not have as much depression. Like I don't think I was really depressed at all during this pregnancy. I struggled a bit like with everything that was going on at the time, like all the external things, and that was going a bit crazy. But I felt a lot better about this pregnancy, and my hormones were a lot more stable, I think. And Lucy was around 2 years old when I found out I was pregnant, so it was a nice age gap. But after she was born, I really struggled after she was born with depression.
Okay.
Like postpartum depression hit me hard.
Did it? At what point did you feel like it came back?
So probably around the 6-month mark, it kind of came back. And again, like throughout my marriage, we had like me and my husband had lots of issues that happened throughout our marriage, and so I think some of it coincided alongside with that, and so
Feeling unstable in that, and so therefore that spilled over to this.
yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so this time around, you could recognize the signs. And
Yeah.
what kind of signs were they for you? Like, was it gradual, or was it kind of like a hit you?
So I probably didn't notice it straight away. So I say it was around the 6-month period that I started feeling this. And I didn't really seek help until probably she was about 9 months. And I started really realizing that like I was really run down. I was emotional a lot. I just wasn't handling things very well. Like anything would happen and I was just a mess. And so I went to my doctor, and this was the first time I'd actually sought help for my depression. And so I went to my doctor, and we got myself onto a healthcare plan, and we started working through that. And then it was around Christmas time, and it was so stressful. I just remember, like, Christmas is my favorite time of the year, and I just remember just not wanting to do anything and just wanting to just shut the world out. And again, I felt like I had to put on the happy face because it's my favorite time of the year. Everyone knows that it's my favorite time of the year. And so I was trying to be happy with these 2 babies, well, not babies, but like baby and a toddler, and they're so full on.
Yeah, because you're only 21, is that right?
Yeah.
Still super young.
Still super young. And I guess like I'm still trying to find my identity through all this. Like I guess that's one thing I didn't mention earlier, is like in all of this, like being so young and then suddenly being a mum when I wasn't expecting it, trying to figure out who I am now. And I felt like it took me such a long time to figure myself out, and what I needed and what I wanted and who I was, and trying to be like, okay, this is what I am as a mum and this is what I am as a person, and trying to figure all that kind of stuff out as well. Like,
well, it makes sense. I mean, if you talk about growing up in a quite a strict family. As much as you love them, we love our parents, but that strictness then makes you not know who you are because you're being
Yeah.
and then if you went into a similar kind of relationship, it makes sense that you don't know who you are because you haven't had the space to explore.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so much harder to do with children because they're at us all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting. I just wanted to reflect. You said that it wasn't until your second child that you went and sought help for depression. Was it only then that you realized that you had depression the first time?
No, I knew that I had depression. I felt really ashamed about having depression. And so
Yeah.
I didn't talk to anyone about it.
I would love if you could elaborate on the shame, because I think that is a massive part of anxiety and depression. And yeah, I would love you to elaborate, because I know there's so many people that feel shame around it and therefore it's stigmatized, and we just need to talk about it as an opening for us to do some inner work, you know?
Yeah. So I guess, one, it was supposed to be a happy time, like, you're pregnant. Oh, yay, happy. And so I guess like, I'm supposed to feel happy. I'm not supposed to be feeling this way, There was a lot of that. And also, being also Christian, like I felt like the people at my church was like, well, depression isn't something you should feel like.
Yeah.
And which is something that I really struggled with at that church. They really was like, well, you shouldn't feel depressed. You're a Christian, you should be happy. It's all fine.
Wow.
And so I think, yeah, it was just something like, and it just, I think not being able to share it and feeling that I had to hide it just made it so much worse as well.
They say that 100%. Like it's so many of these things are so internalized from shame,
Yeah.
and that simply by being able to speak about them, it halves the intensity.
Oh, it does so much.
Right. And I'm not saying that it's the fix all. There's a lot of things working with our body and like mind and soul, and there's so many dimensions of it. But to be able to voice what you're feeling and to have that reality acknowledged,
Yes.
is that not like huge?
Yeah, it is. And I think that's the thing that really helped me with with the second child, being able to go to the doctor. It took me a while to be able to go to the doctor and say that I needed help. And it was such a relief going, okay. And then once I felt like I told my doctor, I felt like I could open up to other people about it. And the relief that came with that as well, being able to talk to him, and then realizing that it's like normal, like there's other people that struggle with this as well. And
It's so true. Can we just say normal? And it's like it's it's a, we all believe different things, but it is this idea that we've come through this strange period in society where it's compress and depress all the hard, icky things about being human so that we can appear to be these polished, perfect beings that don't really exist.
yeah,
So, like I love like everyone you talk to, unless they're in complete denial or unless they haven't, and even people with like really solid foundations and secure attachment and are allowed to be who they are, we all still have issues.
yeah,
It's so nice to be able to talk about them,
yeah.
because thank goodness we don't all have the same issues. Because then we wouldn't be able to help each other.
Yeah,
But it's so nice. It's so nice to hear you say that once you could find your voice, that you really started to have some healing begin to take place. So
yeah.
that's your second baby. And did you, I guess, was that kind of the opening to healing? That
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did anything major come out of that, or was it just like, oh, okay, I know what this is, I'm starting to talk about it?
Yeah, I think, well, because then after that, it was soon after that I started getting better again, that I fell pregnant with my third child. And then I think just the hormonal shift and again, things going on within the marriage, my depression came back so severe. And I think because of that, I was able to then get the more help that I needed. And I was able to go onto the antidepressants that I needed. And because I was very anti-medication. And I think without having already talked to the doctor and already having started going onto this journey, I don't think I would have, allowed myself to do those things.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that, because you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are, and I'm included, that are very hesitant about medication. And it doesn't have to be everyone's journey. We're advocating either way, but it would be nice for you to say, how did you come to a point where you're like, this is going to work for me? Like this is the path that I need to take right now.
I guess I was kind of, because the depression came on so strongly, and I had 2 kids, like I needed to look after, and I literally couldn't, like, it was so hard to get out of bed in the morning, let alone look after them. And I guess it was just that whole, like, okay, I can't, like, because before that I was like doing exercising and eating the right foods and trying to, do those kind of things to manage, which I was managing until I fell pregnant. But then, like, I couldn't even do those things. I couldn't get out of bed to exercise. I couldn't make myself a good, healthy meal. It was hard enough just, making toast for the kids or stuff. So I guess it's just that point of desperation going, okay, well, I really need to do something because I can't do this.
Yeah, and that's totally valid. And, that's how things are. So so you started on that journey while you're pregnant with your third.
Yes.
By the way, I just always think that you're amazing with 3 kids. And when you had her, did it lift? Like, was there hormones connected?
Yeah, so I definitely felt a lot more connected with her when she was born. Like, I felt that rush of love and connectedness with her. I remember the first time holding her, like giving birth to her and holding her, and I was just like, oh, it felt so different to, because I was nervous that it'd be similar to, having my first child, that disconnection, but I felt that connection immediately, and that was so nice, and stuff. And so I felt like almost instantly lifted, which was really nice, and to be able to be connected with her and to be able to continue with the other 2 girls as well. Because it's really hard when you've got depression and you're disconnected from one child and you're trying to deal with other children. And
so Lizzy, you've got the 3 girls. Life's going okay. You're working through your health stuff. What have been the big shifts for you personally in your growth? Where's your awareness at now? It's a big question, I realize.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess.
Do you want to answer it, or we could start a little simpler, like maybe how this work with other women through Mama Got Skills has helped your own journey?
Yeah.
Whatever feels.
Yeah, no, I think so. Elise was about 6 months old when I started with you, and the one thing that really drew me to Mama Got Skills was, the whole postnatal side of it, and working with, through that depression and anxiety, and just meeting other mums and hearing their stories and learning their journeys and stuff. I think that's really helped a lot with, acknowledging my own journeys and stuff, and realizing, how common this is and how normal it is. Like, and it's just, been so amazing to be able to walk with other women during that, and to be able to say it's okay, like there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like it can feel so dark at the time, and it can feel like there's no end to it. Like it's just like, this is going to be like this forever. I'm never going to be able to connect with this child, or it's never going to be easy again. But like to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think it's been so amazing being able to share with that with other women. And
How do you
yeah, him.
how do you think you found your light? When did your light appear?
I guess there's been lots of different moments with light. Like I remember, that like feeling like that fog kind of lifted with my first one. I guess that was a huge like, oh, there's the light, I can do this, I've got this. And then yeah, like again, and I think for me, something that has been like probably the biggest light moment for me was, separating from my husband and going on this journey on my own. And that was a huge empowering moment, I think.
And do you think that's part of you didn't know who you were because you've always been around people who have told you who you are?
Yeah.
Because they might be stronger in their personalities, or, whatever, for whatever reason. So
yeah,
this is your time to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been amazing. I think, part of it is due to having older children, but it's been so much quicker and easier to find myself. And I think also, part of it's being on my own without the big, strong voices around me telling me who I am and what I should be. It's been so much easier to find myself even more and discover exactly who I am and what I want. And
I love it. Who are you?
I'm Lizzy.
What have you found, Lizzy? What have you found? No, it's a trick question. It's a trick question because, if we ask ourselves, who am I? It's the gap between that question and you starting to say something. That's who you are.
Yeah.
That resonate for you?
Yeah.
Without all the labels, because if you say to someone, who are you? And they go, oh, well, I'm this and I do this and that's stuff, that's ego. But
Yes.
who are you? Something inside that's actually not tangible. Would you agree? Is that what you found?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's like an inner peace.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and it's a life work, it's not an instant fix.
Yeah, and there's definitely still more of a journey to go on, definitely. But yeah.
But it feels really nice to bring stuff to light within yourself and work through it, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Because it just makes you that little bit more stronger, and it makes you trust yourself just a little bit more, and you have just a little bit more self-worth. And I think the big thing that's come out of this for me about you is this self-love piece, right? How do I connect with another being has a lot to do with we can't connect with ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And that's something that I see a lot, with the women that we work with, that's a struggle because, we hear self-love all the time, self-love, 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 like it's an external thing, get a manicure, get a massage, but it's such internal work that until you fully come to the realization of self-love, you will not be able to feel it from anyone else.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think it's that whole self-esteem and that whole knowing that you are worth something, and that also that you're worth other people's time, and you're worth, being like having the position that you have in life. I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah. Has that been big learning for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. And yeah, and a huge thing is definitely the self-worth as well, and just knowing who I like, that I have a place, that I am worth being here. And yeah.
And what are some of the things that you action within yourself, like perhaps a routine or something that helps to build that within you?
Um, I guess like for me, I'm very reflective. And so I guess um that's something that I've been doing a lot, is just reflecting and talking through and like going through past scenarios and stuff, and being able to go, well, this is what happened and this is okay. And I was still worth it in that situation, even though I was told I wasn't worth it, and or that I wasn't supposed to be in that situation, or like whatever, like going, okay, that was okay for me to be there. And that and even in the painful things, and where things weren't so nice, and things that didn't, like that shouldn't have happened to me, knowing that that was part of the journey, and that that's helped me to be the woman that I am now. And that yes, those things happened, and that wasn't me, that was them.
Mm, yeah.
Does that, I don't know if any of that makes sense, but
It does. I really love this reflective piece because I think it's a really practical um, tool that people can use, that you go back to the scenario that is painful and you rewrite it with a sense of love for yourself.
yes,
Like that's super empowering, because you're basically, yeah, we're not changing the past, but we're changing our story around the past. And
yeah,
that's the deep work there. So
yeah,
going back and reflecting on a time where maybe you were not so nice to your child, or you lost your temper, but rewriting it from a place of love for yourself, that you were tired and that you really do love your child. But then also, if you have the capacity, and this is more in parenting than any other kind of past things, that you can go and show up for your child again
yeah,
with that reflective nature. And we can
yeah,
actually, it's an energetic thing, but we can actually take our energy back. We can actually call it back in and go, all the energy that I've spread out today that hasn't been wholly positive, I'm going to call back to me, and I'm going to restore the energy of the child back to them. And it's like, it's just little, I mean, we're all energy, but like, it's about intention,
yeah,
and intention,
yeah,
everything. So if you intend that to happen, it will happen. So
yeah, so good.
it makes complete sense that that's what you do, the reflective piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So um where to next for Lizzy?
I don't know.
How do you feel about stepping into where to next with Lizzy?
um I guess like I feel a lot more confident in who I am. So I feel like I can take on more. Like I feel like this year, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I'm like, oh, I felt like this year I was like, I barely made it through. It was such a big change going through, separating and learning to do this all on my own, and, going through all this stuff and reflecting on all this stuff. It took a lot of energy, and has taken a lot to go through all of this, I think, and to become, where I am now. And I'm like, I'm really, in a way, excited for next year, because I feel like I have a lot more energy. I have a lot more to give. Um, and yeah, I feel like I've got a lot more intention.
Mm,
That makes sense.
yeah. Intention is everything. It's so key. I've been thinking
Mm,
about it recently. If you can see it, you can do it. It exists.
yeah.
And I think there's so much in that. If you can't see something, then it probably doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
How do you do the work to get to a place where you can imagine exactly where you want to be and how you want your life to go? That's the work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to me.
That's okay. Thanks for having me.
I hope I didn't grill you too much, but I feel like we know each other. So I'm like, now let's get
It was good.
we can reflect on this later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure and I wish you well.
Thank you.
See you, Lizzy.
Bye.